Damn.
Hey everyone, welcome to Aero Sentinels channel. Today we are going to go over the tuning process. Some of you folks have quite a few questions asking us in messages, that sort of deal, and some of you folks on Facebook and forums asking why this, why that, why is my chronograph showing my rifle doing this. And because of that, we decided, and some of you folks request, so we decided to go over the process, and hopefully this will help you folks get sorted with regards to tuning and the process. But before that, we gathered the wife gathered some of the questions that have been, you folks been asking, and we added some of our own as a necessary tool to give you an idea of, because how do you know what question to ask if you don't know what the process is? So we decided to add some questions to make sure we point you in the right direction, to give you a better picture of tuning in general. All right.
Alright, so I will be the one to ask question and my husband here will be the one to answer all the questions. So let's start. First question, why tune your rifle and what are the benefits?
Tuning your rifle is a must when you wanna get the best performance. Basically, you're trying to get every single ounce of optimization to perform for your rifle to perform at its best, and the only way to do that is if you tune your rifle to its best potential.
Yeah, so isn't the rifle already tuned from the factory?
No. Basically, in short, the manufacturers test the standard pellet for that particular caliber up to majority of the time up to 50 yards if they go that far. I know JSB, when they test their pellets, they test them to 50 and 100 yards, but manufacturers, it just depends on the manufacturer, where they may test to 50, and if it shoots good, that's it. I mean, I don't know of manufacturers that test their rifles and tune them all the way. So they kind of give you a baseline and a generalization. Oh my goodness, can't even say that right. They give you a baseline of a standard pellet that you should be shooting for your pellet. So majority of the time, manufacturers will shoot the standard grain for a particular caliber. So in our case, both of these rifles are .25 caliber. So the standard majority of the time manufacturers use is JSB pellets, and that would be the 25.39 grain of the JSB Diablo pellets. So again, they give you a baseline of that it should shoot okay or good at, but it won't be fully optimized. Just depends. And also a dealer can tune it if you pay extra or whatever, but it just depends how you order it. But majority from direct from factory, no.
No, okay. So the second question, do you need special tools and skill to tune the rifle?
No, you do need special tool. With that said, it would be the chronograph at the very least. You cannot tune without a chronograph. You need a chronograph. And your skills, you don't have to be an expert. You just need to have a basic understanding of the process and the overall I guess details of what you're trying to achieve in theory and in practice. So if you have a basic understanding of that, and you have a chronograph, yeah, you can do it yourself. It's not bad. It's a fairly easy process. It can be tedious. It just depends on how but it varies from rifle to rifle, and your understanding of what your rifle is doing given the data that your chronograph is feeding you.
Okay, so why exactly do you need a chronograph?
Again, the chronograph is a must. It is a tool that gives you visibility on what your rifle is doing from start to finish. So given different pellets behave differently, as you do each pellet, as you make your adjustment, your chronograph will give you data feedback of what that adjustment did. So each time you need to be aware of what your rifle is doing, and the only way to do that is it's basically a screen to what your rifle is doing. It's like a monitor. You know, if you're just pressing everything on a keyboard, you don't know what you're typing without a monitor. How do you know what you're clicking, what you're typing without a monitor? So the chronograph is basically your monitor to your rifle. It gives you data feedback.
Okay, alright. So how long does it take to tune the rifle?
It depends on your understanding and how you comprehend what the data is being fed to you as you tune the rifle. And again, it can also depend on how well behaved your rifle is and how it adapts to the changes, or how each change you make. Some rifles may be easier to tune than others. That's just the nature of the beast when it comes to tuning.
Okay, so I've been watching you tuning the rifle. What are the process?
The process is can be tedious, but in short, it's getting a baseline, and that baseline you can start it from the factory, how you ordered it, you kind of shoot that way, and then from there you select the pellets. And the only way to do that is grab a whole bunch of different pellets, different grades, different manufacturers, and select the best one that your barrel likes at different, and start small. Start at 20, 30, 40, 50 yards, and then the better from the selected pellets that's left that shoots more accurate than others, those are the ones you want to keep pushing to the next distance and further. And that's what you're trying to optimize, is the accuracy and this distance potential of your rifle.
Alright, so I've been meaning to ask this. How do you know which pellet to use?
Um, like I just mentioned, it would just be basically selecting the pellets and firing them with your rifle and see how well it does from um, a given distance, and then from there you kind of push the bar a little further by shooting it further and further and see how accurate. But you know, so you grab a bunch of different pellets. Let's say you grab different grains, different manufacturers from for that particular caliber, and you start at say 30 yards. Some of you folks may be sub 12, and because it's sub 12, depends what you're trying to do with your rifle, if plinking versus hunting, that sort of deal. So it just depends the distance. So what you're comfortable starting with, but start small and then push them further. And the best pellet some rifles may like pellets better than others, and that's basically the pellet you choose is the one that stands out the most to be the most accurate. And some rifles may like a variety of pellet. They're not as pellets selective, while some rifles may be pellet picky and they only like a certain pellet, and you might have little selections. It just depends on the barrel twist rates, choke or unchoke, that sort of deal. So the only way to find out is shooting it at various distances and various speeds, and that's how you find the speeds and the potential for the pellet.
Alright, so is the process the same for all the rifles?
No, unregulated and regulated rifles are different. Some may have external adjustability, some rifles may not, and some are just basic where you can only perform a certain adjustment, where others give you finer tuning capabilities. So, but in theory, the process in general is the same, but the different types of adjustments and components that you can adjust to optimize the performance of your rifle can vary, but in theory it's the same process.
Alright, so move over to the next question. How do you know when you have achieved your goals?
When you've gotten to the point where you've achieved consistency, shot to shot consistency, and your accuracy is at its optimum. You cannot get any better than that, and sometimes you just have to accept that barrel, that rifle cannot do any better than a group of you know, 0.75 inch in groups. Some may group the best only at 1 inch. Some may be able to be pellet on pellet, depends on the distance. So the only way to find out is through a chronograph. Try various velocities, as mentioned, various distances, and which pellets. Pretty much that's what you optimize for.
Okay, so next question is, what is ES and ST?
ES, on a chronograph data, ES is extreme spread, and you need to understand extreme spreads. So extreme spread is the whole average of your shot string. Let's say you shot 28 shots and your ES, your extreme spread, is 15. That is, the extreme spread is your the difference from your maximum, your highest velocity to the lowest velocity along that whole shot string of 28. and you try to get that as low as possible, if possible to the single digits if you can. And SD is standard deviation. That's the shot-to-shot calculation consistency. So standard deviation is basically a deviation, a shot prediction of a certain percentage. There's a math to it, and basically on a shot, let's say a shot string of 28, each shot that you take from shot to shot, it will not deviate bigger. It shouldn't deviate bigger than that number. So if you try to get that as low to the single digit as possible as well, and normally that's lower than your extreme spread anyway, should be. So you try to get that as low to the single digit as possible. And if let's say your standard deviation is 5 along a shot string of 28, that 5 is your expected deviation to your next shot. So before you pull that trigger, you know that your deviation is gonna be approximately 5 shots. 5 feet per second deviation. So within that range, that's like a window prediction sort of deal. And when you got that to the lowest point, you can expect that when you take your rifle after you've optimized it, you know that your deviation is not going to go that much different from your shot-to-shot consistency.
Okay, so what is the difference in tuning a regulated gun versus unregulated?
The unregulated gun is the preferred rather is the regulated. The regulated is more linear, it's more predictable. You don't have, when we say linear, it means that the shot-to-shot consistency is consistent. It's not spiky like an unregulated gun where everything from, as long as you have pressure in your tank, is pretty much, you can have spikes. And that deviation in ES, like I mentioned, extreme spread, could vary greatly as opposed to a regulated gun where the shot consistency is more linear. It's not as jagged, it's more smooth. And the unregulated gun is more of a bell curve when it comes to shot string, whereas the regulated gun are more of a linear and then a drop off as it falls down past its regulated pressure. That regulated pressure basically tells you that as long as you have enough pressure to keep that regulated pressure in the regulator, you can expect your shot to shot to be consistent or more predictable rather.
Alright, so we're down to our last question. Do you tune for power versus accuracy, and what is harmonic?
You tune for accuracy, of course. As mentioned, what is power if you can't shoot consistently? And that's more so, especially more important for you folks that are in HFT or FT or any sort of competition. Basically, you need those consistency. You need accuracy, and power means nothing if you can't shoot what you're trying to shoot. So accuracy overall is your primary goal when it's optimization, but of course power is a key thing to it as well, especially for hunters out there. So if you can get those two to its optimum, and that's why it comes to harmonically tuning, you harmonizing the gun with the ballistics that your barrel likes. So because barrel tend to vibrate and the harmonics can cause a deficiency in your trajectory, basically. So, and that's what you want to try to optimize for, eliminate those unknown potentials as much as possible, or at least mitigate them to where you can pretty much predict shot-to-shot consistency and accuracy is your optimum. And that's basically, in short, what you're trying to achieve, is harmonically tuning everything to consistency, power, and of course shot count is a plus, especially for those in competition where you don't want to be or plinking, and you don't want to be filling your gun all the time. So shot count is you also try to optimize for that, but again, that's more of a luxury, more of a want than a need. But again, that's also a key thing for majority of people. So that's it, and we'll take you through the process now, and the wife will show close up and she'll videotape it as well as the camera up front. That way we can kind of give you an idea of what to look for in the process and what to do. And we're gonna keep it because the majority of the questions come from the Brocock family, especially in this line and group. So we're gonna go through this, but we'll briefly touch the unregulated gun, which is the neutron star. Thanks to the wife, surprised me with this one, and we're gonna go through and take you more so in detail of what this, how to tune, and this would be the same for Bantam, the Brocock Bantam, Brocock compatto, and this is the Brocock Commander HP. So, all right, well, we'll keep that in a separate video, but it'll be video 2, and we'll get started now. Thanks for watching. Wait for it.
Lot of people on YouTube, you call me a homo, but you think I stand by this? Well, that shit is a no-go. You're all